But it's the official conscious timer of the event, sponsored by Apple. Welcome back. Slowly, everybody's coming back. That must mean the conversations were
We're
hard to
good.
let go of. Welcome back. Welcome, welcome. All right, so we're going to take just a couple of shares, if anybody would like to. And just sharing with the group, why is a growth mindset important for a conscious leader? And so that's kind of paired with the discussion you just had on what you're learning about yourself, right? So I'm assuming if everybody's learning and everybody's here today, we probably have some people with a growth mindset. So you can raise your hand, you can unmute. We're a small group. Anybody wants to share why a growth mindset is important for a conscious leader?
I guess I'll go.
Thank you, Roberta. I knew somebody would.
I'll break the silence.
Awesome.
Well, you just threw a different question, but I'll answer that one. The one question you gave us was, what am I learning as a leader
What
right
are you
now?
learning? Yeah. And answer that any way that you like. I was just tying them together as both being in the growth mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in a new business I started in November. And so I'm really learning that I need to follow my own practice, what I'm preaching to my clients, practicing what I preach, and, be more forward thinking in establishing procedures and automation so that I can be that leader out there talking to people and reaching out to clients and helping them do the same thing. So yeah, I think it's important to always keep the bigger picture in mind. And as a leader, a lot of times we forget the bigger picture, and we get so caught up in the day to day that we lose sight of what we originally started, the why. You know, so I try to remind myself at least once or twice a day. This is why we're doing this, especially during the frustration time.
So good.
Awesome. Thank you, Roberta. So, practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
And I really heard the practicing piece. And to me, conscious leadership, really all the tenets in this whole journey to me is about that. It's about practice. It's not perfect. I don't know that we ever actually get there, but this idea of practice. So, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to jump in with a comment before we move on?
I will. This is Leslie Scott.
Hi, Leslie
Um,
Scott.
Hi. uh, I am trying to understand more, you know, what my strengths are, what they're not, and ask for help where I know I need it. So instead of kind of just focusing on the deficiencies, giving into the fear, imposter syndrome, etc. Just finding those folks who do have those skill sets, who can help shore up where I know my knowledge lacks, or I just don't have those skills. So um, I also have a new project, and it's technology based. And while I spent about 8.5 years as a technical writer, I can't make a website. I can't make a database. There are a lot of those more technical skill sets that I need. And just allowing people to help is where I am.
That's
Being
awesome.
vulnerable. That's awesome. Thank you,
Thank you,
Leslie.
Leslie. Yeah, I just understanding strengths and asking for help. That's so important. I know for me, it took me a long time, and then it just became like, wow, I'm not sure why I didn't just lean into that early on. So thank you for that share. All right, I'm going to turn over to Christina, and I've probably eaten into some of her time with this activity. And and then she's gonna
That's okay,
share.
Ron. I was
I'm
sharpening
gonna.
my breakout skills in the flow of actually doing this. So apologies if anybody
Well, I think you
was.
did great. You got us there. You got us back. I don't think anybody was hurt along the way,
Yeah.
and I know that for
So
sure.
So welcome again, everybody. Really quickly, I just wanted to give a little bit more information about what we're, conscious leadership, what we're talking about today. There's so many ways that so many people could explain conscious leadership. But I think for us, the biggest thing is we believe that it can't, conscious businesses can't exist without a conscious leader. And in fact, conscious capitalism actually lists conscious leadership as the third tenet. My own personal belief is it's actually really the first tenet, which is the reason why we're starting our series with that. You can't identify a higher purpose, that's truly a higher purpose if you're not in the right mindset as a conscious leader. So lots of different ways that can be explained by people, but that's the biggest thing we wanted to focus in on. And then also introduce our guest today, Elizabeth Glynn. I can't remember when I met Elizabeth. Actually, I think I do. It was actually on a bus in Mexico. And I was asking her about her business, and she was explaining to me what she does. And I just remember being completely blown away at all of the ways that she talked about business, just her care for her people, her evolution as a leader, herself, the presence that she had about herself. So I have been wanting to highlight Elizabeth for a while now. And just to give you a little bit information, they're also a certified B corporation. I don't know if it's maybe 2017 or 2018, but I know that their score right out of the gate was 134, which if anybody knows anything about certified B businesses, that's just like off the chart for a first go. I can't even like tip my head enough on that one. And also that Travois has been a mission-driven company for over 2 decades since its inception in 1995, which is really progressive and pretty exciting. So with that, Elizabeth, you have the floor, 10 minutes, just kind of share with us your journey and especially where the crossroads of conscious leadership and how that's impacted the performance in the team at Travois.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for having me, Christina. I do remember it was a hot, long bus ride through Mexico, and I was really trying not to throw up because I get sick when I'm traveling. So you probably helped me do that. So thank you very much. And look where it brought us today. So thank you. It's nice. I know a couple of you already, and nice to meet some new people today. So I don't know if I'm going to get all the conscious capitalism terminology right, but Christina, you'll jump in and help me, I'm sure, if I need it. But I'm really excited to talk to you today about my business and everything we do. So Travois, as Christina mentioned, is a business that's 25 years old. It's a family business, which I know Kyle knows all about the ups and downs of what family businesses are like. My dad started it 25 years ago. So I've kind of been doing it my entire childhood and adult life. I briefly worked for DST when that was a really big presence in Kansas City in 2004. That was kind of my first job. I heard somebody else mention technical writing. That's what my first job was. And sounds like you continue to enjoy technical writing. I couldn't do it anymore. I needed to do something that I felt a little bit more engaged in. And so I said, Dad, you have to hire me. And he was like, okay, but this is not like an internship. Like you're going to have to like really work hard at this. And I said, I can do it. I can do it. So I started at Travois as an entry-level person, basically right out of college officially. And what we do is, as Christina mentioned, we're a B Corp, and we've kind of always been a B Corp, but we didn't get that certification officially until 2 years ago. And as Christina said, we've always been a really progressive company. My dad is a really inspirational leader, and he formed a company basically that was doing exactly what he thought the world needed and hadn't seen before. And so what that is we work exclusively with American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian communities across the country to help them to secure the financing to help build affordable housing and economic development projects. So at the time, nobody was doing that. And still to this day, there are very few companies that do that. So we're really lucky that we work in this incredibly beautiful and unique communities all across the country. We work in 25 different states. And over the last 25 years, we've helped our clients build more than $1.5 billion worth of housing and economic development, which is second only to the federal government throughout its entire history. So we're really proud of what we've been able to do. And that was really my why I wanted to be in this business, was because I thought that was such an amazing opportunity that I wanted to be a part of. So we have grown over the years to provide our clients with the things that they've asked for. So initially that was helping them find money to build affordable housing. And then it was, as many of you might know, the funding comes from what's called the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. And there's a pile of paperwork associated with that. So our next venture that we started was helping them manage the long compliance process associated with that funding. And then we started hearing that people were really grateful that we'd helped them get money for housing, but they wanted to fill out their communities. And that was needing money to build grocery stores, to build administration buildings for their government officials, schools, daycares, all of that stuff. So in 2006, we started another new company that uses what's called the New Markets Tax Credit Program. So that's basically everything except housing, another federal program. And then shortly after that, we heard from our clients that they would really like to have the things that we're helping them build be better designed, more culturally appropriate. So we formed an architecture firm as well. So we have 4 sort of businesses that we do, but they all feed into each other. They can stand alone, but we really work together well to make sure that our clients are getting everything they need. So let me think. My evolution of a leader, I mean, I learned from a person who was really an excellent leader, which is my dad. So I got to see that up close and personal, and see what worked and maybe some of the things that didn't work. So I would tweak, my skills are a little bit different. My father is really an entrepreneur, and I feel like I'm a little bit better at taking something that exists and refining it to make it a little bit better. And it really takes both of those in a business, especially in a family business that's where it's a second generation. We have to really think about, okay, how can we do this better? And we've grown over the years. My dad retired in 2016 and I took over then. And we've grown from, 2 people in the beginning to now we have about 45 employees spread out over the country. Let me think. I guess a lot of what I try to do at Travois is really to think about, okay, what do our clients need? And then how can my employees help them best achieve whatever their goals are? We're really led by what our clients need. The name Travois is, some of you might be familiar with, the Plains Indians would lash together 2 poles and then put their belongings on the back of it and pull it either behind a horse or behind a dog. And so our motto is kind of, we're helping you get where you're going. So we're not leading the charge, we're helping the process to get where our clients tell us they want to go. And so I kind of take that same mindset about what is best for our clients and our employees. And I also just do kind of what I would want. So for example, when I first had my first child back in 2008, it was really hard to think about staying home full time, but it was also really hard to think about, sending her off to daycare far away from me. So we started a daycare at Travois and have had it continuously running since then. And it's just the most wonderful thing. It was really great for my family, but it's also helped us attract and keep amazing employees who also want that. And it's far too rare, as I'm sure you've seen around town or in your own experiences, to get something like that. But that's sort of an example of how I try to be a good leader is, well, if I want this, probably some other people do too, and let's just figure out how to make this work. Other things that we try to do, as Christina said, it's really important to us that we are a mission-driven, focused on what's, making an impact to our clients and to better the world, but also thinking about it from all different perspectives. So we want to lessen our environmental impact. We want to make sure that we're supporting our employees with a living wage. So all of our daycare employees, for example, make more than minimum wage. They all have access to time off, paid time off, 401k, all that kind of stuff, just like our regular employees do. And Christina was very kind to say that we did get a super high score on our B certification a couple of years ago. We were like, I think top 1% in the whole world at the time.
Top 1%.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to maintain that. It was high expectations, but especially in a COVID situation where so many of those scores are based on things you do like physically in your workplace. And since we've all been home for the last year, I'm not sure how that's going to work. But it's really important to us that we think about how Travois does things right now, but also what is life going to be like in 10 years and how can we make sure that we're staying both competitive from a business perspective, but also really proud of the kinds of choices that we've made. And looking back, did we do the right thing? It's kind of funny, actually. COVID kind of crystallized for us some things that I'd been really trying to work on. So as a consulting firm working in 25 different states, our travel bills and travel expenses and travel time was enormous. And in 2020, I remember this time last year, I said in our annual meeting, I want to have our travel. It's not good for us to be on so many airplanes. We really need to cut down on this, and everybody's getting burned out. I didn't mean for there to be a pandemic that would stop all travel for everybody. So I'm sorry if I jinxed us, but it was amazing how that really forced us to reconfigure the way that we do business. And as I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard, Indian reservations across the country were hit incredibly hard by COVID. So our clients were very proactive right away, saying that they didn't want anybody to come visit them. And I likewise didn't want to risk my employees' health. So we stopped traveling in February last year. And we haven't really done anything since. There's maybe been a few drives that we've gone on nearby. But it's kind of the Travois way to think about a problem and then think about how we can turn that into something that is really actually what we kind of wanted to do in the first place. So now that we're not traveling very much, for example, we have a lot of employees working from home and they want to keep doing that. And so we're just continuing to evolve and do what we can to provide our clients with everything they need, but also limit our environmental impact by not traveling nearly as much and make life a little bit easier for people. If you don't have to commute, all that kind of stuff is just, life can be a little bit easier. So that was sort of a long rambling talk, Christina, about my leadership journey. But that's kind of in a nutshell what I consider myself. You said one of the things that I could talk about was, what was the question? I think it was, how would you describe yourself as a leader? And I kind of think of myself as like the problem solver in chief at Travois. I don't do a lot of the day-to-day work with clients on specific projects anymore. And that at first was kind of hard to grow out of that role of having, I'm sure a lot of you have that when you start to delegate all of the actual interaction, you kind of have to think about what your role is. And for me, that's been big and small problems. How do we think about an alternative to get whatever our goal is? And COVID has given us a lot of chances to rethink how we do things and what's really important. So that's kind of what I would say is my reason for being at Travois, is just sort of pushing people to think through problems. How can we solve them in a different way? And just always focused on, okay, well, we didn't get this option. Let's chart another path because we have to get that goal, and let's just figure out whatever it takes to get there.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So with that, Ron, I want to pass it back over to you. I'm working on creating our breakout room. So if you want to kind of set the stage for the learning that we're going to do.
Fabulous. Elizabeth, thank you very much. That was awesome. I love what you do, and I'm super inspired by the fact that you are a B Corp and where you started with that impact score. It sounds like you guys are making a big difference. As I was thinking about what you said about being a leader, I really heard you saying that you were intuitive and that it seemed like you're so directed towards other people, and you're not a leader that's putting yourself first, which I think is a huge, huge piece of being a conscious leader, being aware of what's going on and really intuitive about what people need, not just what your employees need, but also the customers or your customers. So now we're going to do a little activity, and I'm going to ask you guys to reflect back on what you heard, what you learned on Elizabeth's story of conscious leadership. So what I'm going to ask is for you to share a quick story or a reflection, just thinking about your own conscious leadership journey. It could be something that is a high point for you as a conscious leader. It could be something that is a struggle for you as a conscious leader, or it could be just an aha moment, like where you want to go next, like what is resonating with you right now as a conscious leader. So we're going to give you just a few minutes. In fact, I'm going to try to put a little music on here in the background. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think about and just kind of reflect back while Christina is getting our breakout groups together. Then you're going to go into a group of 3 to 4 people. And we're going to come back. We're going to ask 1 or 2 people to share what you were most inspired by from what you heard in that conversation. That inspiration could be from yourself or from somebody else in your group. All right, so we're going to share a quick story or reflection about our own conscious leadership journey. Could be a high point, could be a struggle, could be an aha moment, something from now, or maybe it's something that you had last week. Lots of time this year for aha moments I've found in the world of COVID. So what resonates for you right now? All right. Be quiet for a few seconds more, and then Christina, when you're ready, you let us know.
I have all the rooms set up, except there's one room that has 4 people, room 4, but everybody else will be in groups of 3.
All right, so maybe you wave a hand when you've thought about this, you're ready to go. Looks like we've got a few people still contemplating. I see hands waving. All right, I think we're safe to go. All right, it is safe to travel.
Is everybody?
Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. I like when we're having to pull people out of the conversation. I know it probably doesn't feel good at the time, but it means it was meaningful. Welcome back. So we're going to ask a couple of people that would like to volunteer and share what were you most inspired by from your small group conversations? What most inspired you from the conversation or conversations that you just had?
I just want to say I'm super inspired by the fact that Iris is coming to us from Israel.
Awesome. Welcome from Israel. That's beautiful.
It's great being here. Thank you.
What other inspirations do we have today?
I'm inspired by just the good work that everybody does. whatever it is, and it's coming from the heart, and there's layers upon layers, and it's just inspiring. Nice to be in a group of people that, that's where they're coming from, even if you don't have specific things in common with them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sammy. Yeah, you mentioned heart in there. I do believe conscious leaders do lead from the heart. Anybody else? Let's have one or two more.
I'd just like to add to that, Sammy, of heart. I'm inspired by people's vulnerability to even do, meetings like this, and then put themselves out there in whatever that is for them. So I'm an introvert. I mean, I'm an extrovert, but I'm inspired by everybody who, brings their ideas, their vulnerabilities forth. And I always get something out of it, as I hope they do. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Gail. Vulnerability, yes, another trait of a conscious leader. Let's get one more in here.
I can do one. I'm inspired by Elizabeth. I know she didn't have a lot of time to talk, and honestly, I could listen to her for a full hour, just talk and share her story with us. But I'm super inspired just by, I got to do a little bit of extra research, and I would highly recommend you guys all go to the Travois website, and they have a really cool video too that shares what they do. And I was just so inspired that, everything I knew about what Travois does in terms of how they take care of their people and their culture and her leadership and their certified B and all that they do to give back to the community. But then also looking at that video and getting to learn a little bit more about the business model, that it's just, from me, I could tell it was rooted in conscious leadership. When I looked at it from my perspective, because it was the full gamut. It was like, we're going to take care of you as our customers. You don't need to worry about things. Our worries are your worries. We're going to hold your hand. We're going to be there. We're going to champion this. And even the way that it takes it all the way to when people are moving into the homes, and then that's when they celebrate. It was really cool. So that was very inspiring.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christina. All right. So we have about 6 more minutes left. And then Christina, let me know whether we can shift. We had talked about maybe doing a few minutes after if people wanted to stay. But what we're going to do right now is that we're going to move into some appreciations. So the first thing I'm going to ask everybody to do, you're going to type this into your chat, but do not hit send. When everybody kind of waves their hand, then we're all going to hit send at one time. All right, so what we want to do is the first thing is to, what did you most appreciate in this hour we spent together? And for me, it seems like 5 minutes. It's gone so fast. There was so much more. We could spend days on this topic. So I know we're just skimming the surface. What were you most inspired about? And as you're thinking about that, Christina's going to share, we will have a follow-up session in February that's going to be more of a hands-on with the conscious leadership and taking some of the things that we talked about and learned today and having a little bit more of a hands-on session. All right, does everybody have it in the chat? What are you most inspired by today? How are we doing? Raise your hand, wiggle your fingers, do a little hand dance, whatever you need to do to let me know that you have your inspiration there. All right, looks like people are still being inspired. Oh, Rebecca, you're going to go to timeout again. I'm just kidding. All right, let's hit send now. Rebecca started the trend there. Let's do it. All right. All right, new people. Positivity for forward opportunities, getting to know everyone. is thinking positive and a growth mindset during the past year. Amen to that, Katie. Growth mindset during this past year. I hear so many people complaining and thinking about all the things that we've had to learn this last year. Inspired by how many are taking difficult circumstances to jumpstart a career that is passion motivated. Passion motivated. That certainly fits with conscious leadership. People's willingness to share, leading through intuition, appreciating people showing up as who they are, connecting with others and hearing about their work. All right, great inspirations. Rebecca, need a timeout for the trigger finger. You got us going though. I think everybody was done. They were ready. You were intuitive. You just knew what was going to happen. All right, we're going to have one more question in the chat, and that is something that you might take action on from what you learned today. Is there, and just like a word or two, some action, some next step that you might take? And it might be coming to our February 16th deeper dive session. Not that I want to plant any seeds for that. All right, so let's do this. Rebecca, you tell me when you're ready. And then when you're ready, we'll all hit enter. All right, Rebecca's ready. Everybody else, let's go. Hit enter. All right, reaching out to employees to help others, connecting with people, keeping the dialogue going, thinking about outer validation, ask for feedback, remember the relationship, research B Corps in your area. And you can also connect with Christina and I too a little bit, and Elizabeth too, about B Corps. Be more connected to communities like this. Love this. That sounds like an accountability group. Connecting with Sammy. All right. I appreciate the inspiration, and I appreciate you guys sharing the next action. So we've got 2 more minutes. I'm going to turn it over to Christina for a few announcements. And then if Elizabeth had any time after, we were thinking,
Yes, she can.
like maybe 5 minutes if people wanted to stay. And because we thought we would reconnect back to her after the breakout session, but we want to honor the time. So with that, you've got 2 minutes, Christina.
All right, perfect. So quickly, you guys will all get a post-event survey or post-event email that includes a survey. But in case anybody wants to pop into the survey as they're heading out of here, I put it in the chat if you want to copy that. Your feedback is hugely important to us as we're planning our programming for 2021. As you can tell, this was a very tight event. So we would love feedback on this time. If it was too short or too long, what times work for you guys. The other thing is really quickly too, is if you go to our website, and that'll be included in the email as well, we have our next 2 events already open for registration. All of the events so far this year are free as we're working through this virtual world that we're all adjusting to. And the February 16th will be a deeper dive into this conscious leadership content. So if you were inspired by today, you want to have more information, you want to dialogue with senior leaders, to go deeper into conscious leadership, that's a great event for you to register for on February 16th. And then we also have our next tenant, which is on April 13th, and it'll be higher purpose. So we'll have a company that will be, have a speaker for that as well from a local company here in Kansas City on higher purpose. And then lastly, in that email, there's going to be a resource for you guys. We have a PowerPoint deck that goes deeper into conscious leadership. What is it? What does conscious capitalism say that conscious leadership is, or how do they define it? Practices that you can put in place to go on your conscious leadership journey, as well as a really helpful kind of acronym on areas to focus on. So that was a lot to cram into 2 minutes. I personally feel like 60 minutes was not long enough for this, so be interesting to see how you guys feel about it. But thank you everybody for spending your lunch hour with us. Iris joining from Israel, and Rebecca from Denver, Colorado as well. And if you guys want to stay on for a few minutes, if anybody wants to stay on, Elizabeth is going to stay on and she's happy to answer questions since this went so quickly.
Thank you, everybody. Really
Everybody.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
It was
you.
You know, I
amazing.
found that kind of the after Zoom, sometimes I just hang out on Zoom after to see whether people cut it off or not. But it's kind of like the event's over. We're all just kind of hanging out. We're
Yeah,
walking out and able to chit chat a little bit.
This is
appreciate it.
coffee and cake
Yeah.
on the way out.
We will be serving virtual coffee and cake. That is for sure.
Well, for me, it's 9 p.m. right
I
now.
know, I was gonna say, thank you Iris, for joining.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you. And thank you,
Yes.
Rebecca, for inviting me. Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Well,
Bye,
thank
Thank you,
Iris.
Elizabeth.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. See you later. Lots of love.
Rebecca, you probably have some questions for Elizabeth.
I do, but I have to jump on a seeds
You?
call.
Oh, okay.
And I would love to
Well.
talk to you, though. Christina, will you connect us?
Yes, for sure. I definitely will. Thank you.
All right, be careful with that trigger finger in your next call.
Like a big audience, and I don't want to do that. All right,
Yeah.
take care, guys. See you
All
later.
right.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, Len. Thanks for staying. Did you have a question?
Oh, no, not really. I'm actually just I'm just moving at speed and I'm completing your survey. So I just didn't.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Chat. Elizabeth, I really enjoyed what you had to say, particularly around consciously being aware of what the needs of the people are and meeting those needs, and consciously being very goal-centered and looking to really innovate and create solutions to the problems to keep hitting goals. I really appreciated that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm happy to listen more if people want to chat. I'm new.
Well, thanks, Len, for joining us. I hadn't seen you before at any event, so welcome. If this was your first Conscious Capitalism Kansas City event, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
We
Adrian.
appreciate having you.
Adrian or Ron, did you guys have any questions for Elizabeth?
Well, I'm curious about and this is not really a conscious leadership question, but the first thing that comes to mind is that, I mean, what you guys do is so unique. And I mean, it seems like it's current, like today, things that are going on in the world, right? But you guys have been doing this for 20 years. What was the inspiration, or how did that start? I guess that kind of goes back to the question about why your dad started it.
Yeah. So at the time we lived in Minnesota, and my dad was working for the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, and that he was the community affairs officer. And so the regional area that he covered was the upper Midwest, North, South Dakota, basically communities that had a lot of Indian reservations. And he would meet with tribal leaders and talk to them about how the federal banking system might help them. And he would drive out to these places and see that there was just a dire lack of affordable housing, just horrible circumstances, and felt like he was not able to accomplish very much in his role there, and had in a prior career done affordable housing, and just thought, well, why are you not using this program? This is how most affordable housing is built in the country. Why are you not using this? And it's just because there was this mythical barrier that people think that if you're probably a banking institution that's run by white people and you're not comfortable working in a community where you're the minority and you don't understand the laws and you don't understand tribal sovereignty, and you just would rather avoid that. And so he was like, well, my job is to connect these groups and make sure that, like Lynn said, the goal is affordable housing. We just got to figure it out, because this is not acceptable for this level of need to be occurring in the United States.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I mean, it just seems like so current. Like all of that is just so in the spotlight right now. So that's amazing that you guys have been doing that and making an impact. Which sounds like a much
I know, it's kind of
impact for
sad
so
that
long.
25 years later, there's still a ton to do. That's a hidden situation that a lot of people don't realize. I do think you're right. It's becoming a little bit more, people are more aware now of what that is like, but most people don't live near reservations because these are incredibly rural places generally. And so people don't know what it's really like.
Yeah. And then the communities being hit really exponentially hard by COVID. I've watched a few stories. Actually, I think one was on 60 Minutes about one of the communities in Arizona, and it was devastating
It's
to
tragic.
hear, to watch, what was happening there.
And I mean, it's tragic no matter what community you live in, but there's kind of an extra sensitivity for tribes because they're losing elders who maintain their language, and there's not a lot of native speakers of some of these languages, and they're just losing them at a much higher rate. And so it's like an extra tragedy on top of a tragedy that they're losing cultural touchstones also.
Yeah.
So that's been really horrible.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I would love at some point when we're all in person again to catch up with you more, Elizabeth, and also your office. I've never been to your office, and I was doing a little bit of research, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be a perfect place to have an event or a happy hour. So hopefully the world eventually will get back to, being able to do that again. We planned out our entire year to be virtual, but we also are trying to plan it to where if we can be in person, that we can quickly pivot back to that for events. But, we got
like whenever it gets warm, we can be outside again.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm neighbors with you. I'm down on Walnut, 1475 Walnut now. I'm down in this. Yeah, we moved our business to the Spark KC co-working space. And
that's awesome. Oh, great.
One of the first tenants. Visit KC just moved in with us too.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I apologize if it was a little clunky. I was writing down lots of notes about how to improve this experience for both the participants as well as my guest speakers going forward. So I appreciate you being the brave first one to join us.
It was fun. Thank you very much. It was really lovely to chat with all of you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And thank you, Lynn, for staying and completing the survey, and Adrian. Yeah.
If I don't do it straight away, right, it doesn't get done.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate it. Hope to see you at more events.
I hope to be here. Bye-bye.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, everybody.